Writer-director Rian Johnson packs the 8th episode of the Skywalker saga with genuine surprises of all kinds, which amount to a thrilling, emotional, and funny film that is easily the best Star Wars movie since The Empire Strikes Back.
Yes.
Hi, how are you doing? Yes, I completely understand that this review is a little bit late, but trust me, this review is well worth the wait. So clarify this as an early Christmas present, if you will. We're not going to celebrate Christmas reviewing a Jumanji movie, which actually looks pretty funny, but we will review the 8th Star Wars film in the Star Wars franchise, The Last Jedi. So before I have to say anything about this movie, I have to issue a spoiler warning, because to properly review and give out information on what I think about Star Wars Episode 8 The Last Jedi, I would have to give away spoilers because the vast majority of my complaints about this movie have to deal with spoilers. So please stick around if you have this movie, or if you're not anticipating this movie and you hated The Force Awakens, stick around as well. However, if you want to see The Last Jedi right now in Christmas, just don't. Please don't. So let me start off this review right off the bat without sugarcoating it whatsoever. Star Wars Episode 8 The Last Jedi is pretty much the biggest disappointment I've ever seen this year. And probably one of the biggest disappointments I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean, definitely, without question, this movie has some redeeming values in it. But the positives and the redeeming qualities are completely overshadowed by the badness that lies within the plot. This is not me attacking a Star Wars movie. I'm saying that it's a disappointment because Star Wars Episode 8 is not a good movie. So before we say anything else about Star Wars Episode 8, let me talk about the redeeming qualities of the film. I'll start off my positives by saying that the vast majority of the actors in this movie do a very excellent job. Daisy Ridley is still terrific as Rey, however we'll get to her character later in this review. John Boyega is still good as Finn, Oscar Isaac is still good as Poe Dameron, however in this movie he's still kind of playing the same character as he was in the last movie. And then you have 3 people who are the biggest standouts of the entire film. You have Carrie Fisher, who did an excellent job as Princess Leia. Rest in peace, by the way. You have Andy Serkis, who was going to play the very menacing Snoke, the villain that we were all waiting for since The Force Awakens. However, like Rey, we're going to get to his character in a moment. And then you had what everyone was waiting for, Mark Hamill reprising his role once again as the most awesome Jedi in the galaxy, pretty much my favorite Star Wars character, Luke Skywalker. All these 3 actors really bring their characters to life, and you actually feel like you're watching these characters on screen rather than people just phoning in a performance. However, with the way they're written, you know the rest. Now, the rest of the actors do a very good performance in this movie. However, this is a performance that I actually kind of find a little bit, I don't know, questionable. And that is the actor who plays the character of Rose in this movie. Basically, one of Finn's friends. Look, I'm sure she's a nice person in real life, but there's something about her acting that really gets me concerned. It's just that every single time she's delivering a line, it just has to be so bubbly and joyful and just happy all the time. I legitimately thought to myself that every time she was on screen, I was literally thinking to myself, I think I'm watching the Disney Channel. However, if she was an actress on the Disney Channel, it would make a lot more sense. And yes, this is a Star Wars movie, so you're gonna completely expect the visual effects to be monumentally fantastic, and they are. The visual effects of the lightsabers, the ships, even the costume designs of the creatures, the production design of every spaceship set, every design of like a cockpit, or just any other location in the film, it just looks marvelous. The cinematography is gorgeous, everything else is well lit, well shot, and there are actually moments in this movie that make you scream, whoa, that is completely terrific. The John Williams score has really improved since the first one, and I still completely get goosebumps every time I listen to the Jedi Steps theme. And the action for what this movie has is a bit entertaining. That's it. I wish I could keep going on with the positives I have of this movie, but in all honesty, I just can't. I really can't. Alright, now since I got the positives out of the way, now is time for the moment you've been waiting for, which are the big problems I have with this film. And the vast majority of the complaints I basically have for this movie revolves around the plot. Everything that completely revolves around the plot in this movie is just terrible. So let me start off by giving you a brief synopsis of what this movie's about, and then I'll get into the nitty-gritty. So what's going on in this movie is that the rebels are trying to escape from the First Order that's on their tail completely. And all they're really doing is trying to find a safe location. And to be quite honest, that's really all what the movie's about. So in this movie, you have a huge amount of B-plots in this movie that basically add up to a giant story. You have Rey trying to get Luke Skywalker back to the Rebellion so that way they can fight off the First Order while also trying to learn the Force. You have Finn and Rose in this movie that basically do whatever the script tells them to do. And you have Poe Dameron trying to help Princess Leia and Laura Dern's character, we'll get to them in a minute, while trying to escape the forces of the First Order, trying to attack all of them. And then you have Kylo Ren trying to prove his allegiance to the Sith Lord Snoke. And they completely all compile into this one story. But the worst part about that is that some of the subplots in the movie are completely pointless. So like I said before, the movie desperately tries to find things for Finn and Rose to do. So in this movie, here's exactly what happens. The rebels are trying to find a way to get away from the First Order immediately. So Finn, Rose, and Poe find a solution that they need to track down this hacker that can basically break off communications between the First Order and the Rebellion so that they can escape quickly without the First Order tracking them down. So what they do is travel down to like this casino planet location called Cantobite, which is one of, if not many scenes that are completely annoying about this movie. Because in this scenario, not only is it one joke after another, and not only does it give you deja vu moments of the prequels, the movie also throws in a completely forced message in the movie about capitalism, animal cruelty, and child slavery, all in one scene. And as I was watching this movie, I was like, wow, when did we go political in a Star Wars movie? So back into the subplot. Finn and Rose are trying to find the hacker, but end up getting arrested because they forgot to pay a parking ticket. I wish I was lying about this, but I'm not. So they end up finding the hacker basically because he manages to break himself out of prison. And this is a guy called DJ, played by Benicio del Toro, who in all honesty is completely wasted in the film. Because he's basically in this movie for a very short amount of time, and I'll tell you why. After they manage to break out and free all the animals, they managed to get inside Joke's entire dreadnought. They managed to get inside. They're at the hacker location, but as soon as they were able to save the day, the hacker betrays them and leads them to eventually get executed by Captain Phasma. We'll get to Captain Phasma later, but seriously, it just gets worse. Now please follow me on this, because this is the reason why that subplot is completely pointless. Please pay attention and follow me on this. So in this movie, you completely understand that the rebel fleet are trying to run away from the First Order. So after Kylo Ren has been called a sissy by General Snow, he goes on a ship along with 2 other TIE fighters to go and attack the rebel fleet ship. So they're doing some very big damage on the ship, and Kylo Ren is given the risk of shooting down the main station, which is basically where Princess Leia is. However, he manages to not do it because that's his mother down there. But that's okay, because 2 other TIE fighters are shooting it down. So yeah, the main station gets completely wiped out, and everyone from Admiral Akbar all the way to Princess Leia are being wheeled up in the vacuum of space. Now, listen to me. This is something that everyone has been talking about, and I just want to talk about it right now as well. So Princess Leia is in the vacuum of space, and you would figure out that she would possibly die, right? I mean, if you're getting tossed in the vacuum of space without any sort of oxygen, you would just suffocate, freeze to death, and die. No. She twitches her fingers, opens her eyes, stretches out her arms, and floats down all the way to the ship like she's Superman. I'm not kidding. As I was watching the scene, I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Not because of the fact that she has force powers, which is, of course, canon accurate. It's because of the way it was shot and the way that it was executed. It was so poorly done that people started giggling or laughing in the auditorium. And second of all, this is another plot point that never gets brought up by anyone again. No one even mentions how she was able to do this sort of thing. Not even a single conversation. With this, it shows up and is never brought up again. It's like the script completely forgot about it. So as soon as Princess Leia Mary Poppins herself all the way to the ship, she winds up in a coma and the position is given to somebody else. Admiral Holdo, who's played by Laura Dern. And of course, like all admirals and generals have to do, they have to have a plan. We don't get to hear the plan until 2 hours into the movie. And Poe basically goes to General Holdo and he's like, hey, shouldn't we find a way to get away from the First Order, you know, to like escape? And General Holdo's like, you know, I have a plan. I'm just not gonna tell ya. And Poe Dameron, like everyone else, is just like, why? And she was like, well, he got yourself demoted by General Leia because you did something stupid, so I'm not gonna tell ya. I mean, seriously, why would you help him on the plan? What the heck is the point of not doing it? If you want to get out of here, just tell him already. Even if he did something stupid, just have him help. So Poe takes it upon himself to help along with Finn and Rose, so see how it's going full circle? However, we managed to find out what the plan was. To abandon ship. And all the while, Princess Leia is trying to teach Poe a lesson about being a hothead all the time. Sure, let's teach Poe a lesson of being a flyboy when millions of people in the rebellion are getting killed. Smart, guys. And seriously, all of what I just said makes that entire mission that Finn and Rose has completely pointless. All it amounted to was just to have Finn fight Captain Phasma for the final time. And speaking of which, I cannot believe I could find a single character that I find more useless than Boba Fett, but Captain Phasma is it. She has fewer screen time than she was in The Force Awakens. All she is there to do is just to have a fight with Finn in the most predictable fashion possible. One of the biggest problems this movie has is its tonal inconsistencies. The movie wants to be dark, it wants to be serious, it wants to have like some stakes are getting raised. However, it's completely muddled and overshadowed by the amount of humor in this movie. And this is one of the very few Star Wars movies that I didn't even laugh one bit. There's like a moment in the beginning of the movie where General Hux and Poe Dameron are exchanging words over the intercom. And it feels so cringeworthy and so out of place. It feels like you're watching a Marvel movie. There are even comedy bits that are so predictable that I just called them as soon as it happened. For example, Rey is training with a lightsaber, and she manages to cut a giant pillar of stone in half. And the rocks are completely falling down a ledge. And I completely thought to myself, okay, it's gonna land on somebody or something. And as soon as I thought about it, it happened. There are these caretakers with a wheelbarrow riding down the sidewalk, and the rocks completely land on the wheelbarrow, like it's a Looney Tunes cartoon. And speaking of comedy, you know those porgs that they completely advertise as like one of the cutest things ever? And people were clamoring about the fact that, oh, they're just gonna be the next Ewoks. I'll tell you, they're worse, and I'll tell you why. Well, for me, I'm completely biased, and I said in my Force Awakens review, I love the Ewoks. Sorry. While they were cute and adorable and also killing machines, they did something for the plot. These porgs do not. And also, there are moments that you completely waited for in the movie that you thought were going to be completely interesting, but there were some moments that were completely set up by J.J. Abrams that were completely ruined. You know that scene where Rey is handing out the lightsaber to Luke Skywalker for the very first time in her life? And that's where the movie ends? Well, the movie also begins where Rey is trying to hand out Luke Skywalker the lightsaber. Luke has the lightsaber, holds it in his hand, and what does he do? He chucks the lightsaber behind him. And I was like, okay, that's odd for my favorite character in the franchise to do this sort of thing. And then Rey is constantly telling Luke to join the rebellion. And then Luke is like, why did you come here to find me? I came here specifically to die. Okay, if you came here specifically to die, why did you create a map for people to find you in The Force Awakens? And believe me, that's one of many plot holes in the film. And speaking of information in The Force Awakens, everything you were wanting to know about The Force Awakens and everything that was completely set up perfectly by J.J. Abrams is gone here. We already talked about Captain Phasma, now let's talk about the character of Rey and her parentage. People have been wondering back and forth like, where did she come from? Who are her parents? How did she come up with these Force abilities in like a span of a few days? How did she learn to completely wield the lightsaber perfectly? Well, the movie has the information you need, but at the end of the day, you get nothing from it. After having a confrontation with Kylo Ren basically tells Rey, okay, you want to know something about your parents? Okay, I'll tell you about your parents. And we eventually find out that Rey's parents are nameless. They're nobodies. And you know what? At The Force Awakens, I was defending Rey and saying, no, she is not a Mary Sue character. You're gonna figure out in the next movie. And I'm telling you that in this movie, all of those complaints about her being a Mary Sue are completely justified. And even if she isn't related to anybody, you just don't care anymore. She can fly ships she has never been in before. She can bypass a Millennium Falcon's compressor. And she can learn the abilities of the Force and the lightsaber within a span of a few weeks. Which, keep in mind, as you're watching this movie, the entire time span between The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi happens between a couple of days. Luke had to train for years, even decades, to learn the abilities of the Force and the powers of the lightsaber. Luke had to earn and train for the powers of the Force. In this movie, Rey gets handed the Force like it's pixie dust. It's disappointing me because I was so interested in Rey and what she would learn on her journey. I was so interested in this character. I was defending her, for crying out loud. And this is a part in the movie that, believe me, if you hear this, you're gonna be completely pissed off. The movie tries to figure out a completely half-assed way of how Kylo Ren became Kylo Ren. And this is also the movie where Luke Skywalker completely destroys his character. Just completely ruins it. Luke Skywalker created Kylo Ren because Luke Skywalker used the Force powers on Kylo Ren to see a vague vision of what would happen to Kylo in the future if he turned to the dark side, or may have a possibility of joining the dark side. And Luke Skywalker doesn't help Kylo Ren sway away from the dark side. He tries to kill him! He tries to murder Ben Solo in his sleep! So Luke Skywalker has his lightsaber out and is about to kill Kylo Ren, but kinda resists it. Kylo Ren manages to escape and crash his entire fortress down on Luke Skywalker and is able to burn down his school. Luke Skywalker's own school of training Jedi. So you're telling me that everything that Luke Skywalker has ever been through, all the lessons that he learned, all the morals that he stands for, all the prior experiences that he learned ever since he was a farm boy turning into a Jedi, is completely thrown out the window because he created a vague future of what may happen to Kylo if he turned to the dark side. What's worse is that he passes it off as saying that, oh, Snoke basically got into him first. Which, by the way, is never explained how Snoke ever got to Kylo Ren in the first place and how he was able to sway Kylo Ren to the dark side. Keep in mind that in Return of the Jedi, he had a whole movie's worth of trying to get his dad, Darth Vader, to the good side because he was his family, because he saw something good in him. So you can save your father and turn him back to the good side, but he can't do the same for his own nephew, the son of his best friend and his sister? Is Ben Solo just too much to save from the dark side? So you're telling me that Luke Skywalker, one of the greatest Jedis ever, who went through hell and back just to get his father back to the good side and threw his lightsaber against the Emperor saying he will never turn to the dark side and he'll never kill his father, decides to murder a teenager, his own nephew, because of a vision? You've gotta be kidding me. This goes completely against Luke's character and everything he stands for. There's even proof that Mark Hamill said it himself that when he read the script, he didn't even like the version of the character he was playing. When he read the script with Rian Johnson, who Rian Johnson also created really good movies like Brick and Looper, he said, this is not my character. This is completely wrong of me to do this. When you hear that type of thing from an iconic person playing an iconic character, you should immediately start from scratch and go back to the drawing board. And speaking of Snoke, this was a character that was set up completely well by J.J. Abrams, and he was set up to be the next big villain. However, with this movie, much like a lot of characters, it gives you questions but no answers. Here's how Snoke is handled in this movie. Snoke has been regarded as one of the greatest Sith Lords in the entire galaxy. He can use the Force to torture someone without using his hands through a hologram. He can electrocute Kylo Ren like he's a punching bag. And again, without using any hands, is able to sway Rey from side to side and fling her around like a rag doll, and can completely toy with her uses of the Force. So what Snoke does is that he takes Rey's lightsaber and puts it right next to him on an armrest of his chair. And he demands Kylo Ren to kill Rey and strike her down. Snoke has a very pompous, self-righteous speech about how Kylo Ren will strike down his enemies and that he will never, ever betray him. So what happens is that Kylo Ren very sneakily turns the lightsaber 90 degrees towards him and is able to cut Snoke in half with the lightsaber. Yes, Snoke, played by Andy Serkis, one of the most powerful Sith Lords of all the Star Wars universe, is killed because he wasn't paying attention to a lightsaber standing right next to him, being killed off in the worst way possible. The worst part about it is that he gets killed without any kind of backstory. J.J. Abrams set him up to be this completely menacing villain, and we don't get any kind of backstory for him, where he came from, how he was able to learn these powers. We learn exactly nothing from this guy, and he gets killed because he wasn't paying attention of what was right next to him. I was genuinely wanting to give this film a chance, but this is the part where I was just like, this can't be happening. But I'm gonna build up to it first. So the rebels manage to find a location where they can be safe away from the First Order. But the First Order is still on their tails and they're shooting at the base with AT-AT walkers. And the last remaining survivors of the rebellion are managing to get on top of like these rusty speeders, are flying towards the walkers or any other TIE fighters shooting at them to protect the other survivors from any certain harm. However, the First Order have like this giant laser cannon that can be able to blast open through any other walls, including like the giant walls of the rebellion fortress. Finn goes in to sacrifice himself in doing something completely heroic. However, Rose completely Deus Ex Machinas herself and pushes Finn out of the way, and they both crash, which could possibly kill both of them. Finn goes up to Rose, still alive, and he says, "Wait, Rose, why did you do that? I could have saved everybody." Fighting in a war is about saving the ones you love. Oh really? You mean all those people who are getting killed by the First Order right over there? Yeah, I didn't think about that. No, you didn't. Which also begs the question, like, if they're still alive, the AT-ATs are right next to them. Why couldn't they shoot them down? And then you get a shot of Princess Leia being completely hopeless, waiting for her doom. And she's like, what are we gonna do now? Who can save us? And then, what do you know? Luke Skywalker shows up. And I was like, wow, Luke Skywalker's not a coward after all. He's actually awesome again. And then Luke and Leia have a very precious moment together. And then Luke Skywalker goes out there against the 8 Walkers to defend the attack. And I was like, heck yes, this is gonna be badass. And then Kylo Ren then decides to take on Luke Skywalker once and for all. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is gonna get even better. And then Luke Skywalker pulls out his lightsaber and something seemed odd. Well, aside from the completely obvious haircut, we're meant to believe that it's the actual trainer himself. His lightsaber that he built himself is not green. It's blue. That's right, it's the same lightsaber that Rey used before. And I was like, oh crap, he's not real. But remember what happened to that lightsaber? That lightsaber got completely blown in half with Rey and Kylo Ren. And all the people who were telling me, well, Luke Skywalker is a very feeble soldier. That was the reason why Rey was able to beat Luke Skywalker. Okay, well, how about you explain to me those Matrix dodges that he does against Kylo Ren, dodging every single move. He literally does a Matrix dodge in this movie. I'm not even kidding. Kylo Ren then decides to charge at Luke Skywalker, trying to slice him in half, killing him. Or did he? Kylo Ren then turns around and he sees that there are no scars on Luke Skywalker. So Kylo Ren then tries to do it again by poking him with the lightsaber. And as it turns out, the lightsaber is through him, but he's not getting hurt or injured. That's right, Luke Skywalker, while still on the mountain, is trying to send down a Force hologram or an apparition to face against the First Order just to buy the rebellion enough time to escape. But the worst part about that is, the worst part about this entire thing is that after Luke Skywalker did this, he dies. So basically what he did is that he sent down an apparition to buy them enough time, and then he just Obi-Wan's himself or Yoda's himself and he dies? Oh my god. But then this also begs the question, why didn't he just come here in the first place? I mean, if the end result was going to be the same, then why didn't he just come down in the first place? Of course, I knew at some point that Luke Skywalker was going to die. Maybe like in the third or final chapter of a movie. But in the middle? Why? I cannot believe that people would build up this character that we have all loved from our childhood, and then basically killing him the second he's introduced, effectively doing diddly squat. It's insulting to Star Wars fans, it's insulting to movie lovers who loved Star Wars from their time, it's insulting to anyone who loved this character. In all honesty, guys, in all my times of watching movies, Luke Skywalker has always been one of my favorite characters. His amazing story from being a farm boy, making new friends, losing new friends, discovering that his own father is Darth Vader, the second most evil person in the entire galaxy, and ultimately saving the entire galaxy with the rebellion, will be a story that will live up to the test of time. And then we get left off with the character I had such expectations for, who I was ultimately disappointed for in the end. What did Rey do to earn her place as the Last Jedi? Luke made friends, he lost friends, he lost his aunt and uncle, he destroyed the Death Star, he learned the Force from Obi-Wan and Yoda. He was completely broken by the fact that his father is the second most evil person alive. He was completely heartbroken by the fact that his father, Darth Vader, is the second most evil person alive. And his entire journey is unforgettable. What did Rey go through? Losing a family she never knew in the first place? Losing Han Solo when just knowing him for just like half a day? She can learn about the ways of the Force effortlessly. She can lift like a pile of boulders, not like 4-foot boulders, people-sized boulders, when Luke Skywalker couldn't lift up his own X-Wing in the Dagobah system. Luke even had a conversation in this movie with Yoda in a very pretty heartwarming scene, because his character is getting so completely downhill so fast, and Rey just gets away with it scot-free without any repercussions. So after that happened, the rest of the survivors get on the Millennium Falcon and fly off to safety. And then we cut to this kid back on the Canto Bight area, and he's like 5 or 6 years old, and he uses the Force to get a broom. Like, trust me, I didn't even know this until I watched like several videos recently about this. So basically what the movie is saying is that you don't need to learn the Force. You don't need to take years and years of training to learn how to become capable with it. All you have to do, kids, is that if you believe, you can get the Force. The Force isn't just given to you, you earn it. Guys, I wish I can go on about how many flaws there are in The Last Jedi, but by now, I really think you get the point what I'm going here. The Last Jedi does have some redeeming qualities in there. Is The Last Jedi a disappointment? Yes. Is it the worst movie of the year? No, it's not. Is it the worst Star Wars movie ever? No, it's not. As a straightforward science fiction movie, it's okay. It's basically average. But as a Star Wars movie itself, it's massively disappointing. While you do have performances in there that are really terrific, visual effects that are obviously stunning, cinematography that is great, action scenes that are entertaining, and a score that is very well written, everything involving the plot is a complete and total disaster. It heavily relies on conveniences, coincidences, contrivances, and deus ex machinas to drive the story forward. Like, every single problem can be solved by a coincidence. A lot of the subplots really drag in the movie. All of the information that we have been waiting for in The Force Awakens is gone, with very predictable comedy and the very horrible treatment of one of the greatest characters to come in existence. If you thought The Force Awakens had plot holes, you haven't seen anything yet. I really wanted to love this movie. Heck, everyone I know wanted to love this movie. Even Star Wars fans wanted to love this movie. I'm not saying I hate this because I'm a Star Wars fanboy. I'm saying this because not only is this a bad movie, but because I've seen Star Wars all of my life, and it is something that has grown on me throughout my childhood. I was 5 or 6 years old when I saw it with my dad and my brothers, watching all 3 Star Wars movies on DVD, and it was an adventure that I would never forget. It was a story that grew on me ever since then, and for Disney just to completely muddle it up, to basically almost ruin this apocalyptically anticipated franchise, I hate to say this, but I'm not looking forward to the next one. Even as my job as a critic, I have to watch it. I'm not anticipating for it anymore. I'm not anticipating the next Han Solo movie. I'm not anticipating Rian Johnson's 3rd movie trilogy. I'm finished. I'm done having any anticipation for Star Wars at all. Everyone, I hate to do this to you. I was waiting for this movie to be very good, but by the end of the day, I have to be honest with myself and call this thing out for what it is. Because Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi, earns a 2 out of 5. I came into this movie wanting it to be great. I came in saying this is going to be a straight 5 out of 5, just like Force Awakens. Even though I was a bit okay on Force Awakens now, it's way better than this movie. Heck, I would rather watch Revenge of the Sith over this movie. And I didn't even care for Revenge of the Sith. But everyone, if you love Star Wars The Last Jedi, that's okay. I'm just telling you why this movie disappointed me so much, and why it would disappoint millions of others watching it right now. Alright guys, this is probably my longest video to date, so that is my review on Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. Comment below, let me know what you thought about this movie. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, and also be sure to subscribe for more. My name is Luke Nukem, and to all those Star Wars fans out there, you deserve better than this.